Hello, dear aspirants. I am Akriti Kanchi, your mentor from Prep and I've been trying to make your newspaper reading as effective as possible from UPSC point of view, right? This is 5th March newspaper, and since prelims is in May, right? So March current affair will also be included in this year prelims, okay? So whatever is coming today will be important from this year prelims and mains, right? So come with me and let's finish the topics relevant for this year's UPSC and next year as well, right? So let's start with the front page. So this is a nice example, okay? That means our Honorable Home Minister Amit Shah seeks action to rebuild places of worship in Manipur. So this comes under GS paper 3, internal security, because a lot of ethnic conflicts have been going on since May 2023 in Manipur. So internal security challenges and their management in border areas, since this Manipur comes within the near the border of India Myanmar border regions, right? So at security review meeting, there was a security review meeting in which Union Home Minister has directed the Manipur administration. You should remember that Manipur administration is under president rule now. So they're directly being administered by union, and there is no state administration working right now. So it is being ruled by union executive. So Union Home Minister directed the Manipur administration to restore religious places that had been damaged or vandalized during May 2023 ethnic violence, right? So the move is aimed to provide a healing touch to Meitei and Kuki-Zo communities. So it's not all just about taking the weapons away from their hand. It's also helping them to feel better. The spiritual touch, that healing touch, right? So their religious bodies are very very close to people's and communities' heart. So our honorable home minister is trying to strike at the right place. Okay, this point can be used mains answer, right? So 386 religious institutions were suffered, right? So the presence of weapons in the hands of public has also aided large scale extortion and abductions in the state. Okay, so question related to Manipur and internal security can be asked. Let's move to the next article. We'll directly go to the page number 4. Now, there's an interesting article in page number 4. In Chhattisgarh, husbands take oath in place of women panchayat representatives. Okay, so this comes under GS paper 2, local self-government issues. So we generally know the case of Pati Panchayat. There's a famous series in Amazon Prime about panchayat, right? Very well run show. So we all know the women was the panchayat. Instead, man was actually the de facto ruler. He in the name of his wife, the man was ruling. This is what is happening here. So this is a real case scenario of India, right? So husbands of 6 newly elected women panchayat representatives, husbands took the oath in place of their wives in a village in Chhattisgarh, Kabirdham district, right? Not a good example, right? It will be an issue. You can write it as a, when you write the case of Pati Panchayat, right? You can quote this case study and it will make that point even more strong, right? So locals and social activists termed the incident a mockery of women's empowerment and demanded stern action against the guilty. So what will be the use of 50% reservation given to women in local self-government if men are only ruling in their name? It won't be actually beneficial on the field, right? Let's move to the next article. We'll go to the editorial page. These articles are not very important. He is UAE's ambassador, talking on very specific part, not so relevant from UPSC point of view. This article, against domination, the US is seeking to dictate the terms of engagement in space. Okay, so this comes under GS paper 2, international relations. Space is also a commons, international commons that can affect anybody, right? So recently, a Firefly Aerospace became the first private entity to soft land a robotic lander on the moon. Okay, post this, the NASA's head said that the way we keep America first is by dominating in all the domains. So that gave a very dominating kind of sound to the entire IR, and this editor is trying to show his or her concern through it, right? Because space is part of great commons. So anything happening wrong in the space can affect any country down here, right? So there should be a proper administration, accountability and responsibility in the area of space, right? So the US Federal Aviation Administration recently said that it cannot be held responsible for the fragments of a SpaceX rocket that fell over Poland, because the FAA lost oversight once SpaceX had lost control of it, right? So if SpaceX any SpaceX rockets or part falls in any country, and if it hurts people or a property, who will be responsible, right? So the FAA is not taking responsibility here. So NASA's position risk is endangering international cooperation, right? So that's why it is imperative that national and supranational space bodies, including the ISRO, come together to cultivate mechanism to resist unilateral actions by the USA, right? So this should not be done. Let's move to the next article. Important article. Recently, our Honorable Prime Minister has co-chaired with France President for AI Safety Summit, right? So similarly, they're talking about designing India's AI Safety Institute. This comes under GS Paper 3, Science and Technology, its developments and its effects, and what can be the risk associated with it. So countries together are trying to, see how they can reduce the risk, okay? So India's AI ambitions took a significant leap when our Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav said he announced that country would launch an indigenous AI model and establish AI Safety Institute, okay, under the safe and trusted pillar of India AI mission. So you should know there is an India AI mission. It has a pillar called safe and trusted pillar, within which they are trying to make a AI Safety Institute and indigenous AI model, right? So governments worldwide are establishing this AI Safety Institute, okay, to address the potential AI risks that we still don't know of, right? Like UK, US, Singapore, Japan, they're setting up AISIs, right? So they'll be part of the global AISI network that seeks to facilitate, again, common technical understanding. This will, again, it's something global commons. It can affect the entire internet technology arena, right? So UK's AISI is unveiled its open source platform called Inspect to evaluate models in range of areas. US AISI convened an interdepartmental task force to tackle national security, right? So India should create the editor's idea is that India should create AI safety institute based on local concerns. What are the concerns we are facing, right? So a critical issue is AI systems inaccuracy and their potential to perpetuate discrimination in Indian settings. So there are several kinds of discrimination: caste, tribal, sex discrimination. So all that should not reflect in the AI technologies that is being built. So India needs to take special care of it, right? So our Ministry of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology announced that AISI is set to operate on a hub and spoke model. Okay, where everybody will work together, academia, startups, a research and development agency, right? So India's vibrant startup will also work with us here, right? So see, there is a startup name as Karya, are tackling the problem of unrepresentative data by empowering rural communities to create high quality data sets in Indian languages. So they are trying to Indianize the AI. You should remember the name of the startup Karya. In Hindi it is Karya, right? So, and others are advancing multilingual AI development, ensuring inclusivity and accessibility. So anybody who just does not know the language shouldn't be kept away from it, right? So language, the data sets including the rural's idea, opinions, choices, such data sets should be prepared. You should know this important term, Bletchley Declaration. It can be asked in prelims. What is Bletchley Declaration related to? 4 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So Bletchley Declaration was signed at UK AI Safety Summit, okay, the first AI summit in UK, which focuses on global threats such as cyber security threats and disinformation. So Bletchley Declaration is about AI safety, global threats declaration, okay? So India should try to establish a global standardized AI safety taxonomy where the language is similar and people can understand each other, right? The divergence and the inherent complexity of AI systems creates communication barriers. Okay, India's AISI must also support the creation of international notification framework for AI model development so that there is transparency in it, right? India can lead collective effort in the global south. So India can be leader of the global south in this area to co-develop AI safety frameworks. The MITI, that is Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, UNESCO collaboration on India's AI readiness provide the strong foundation by identifying gaps in ethical development and deployment of AI. Okay, let's move to the next page. So moving on to the next article, next page. Yeah. So what are the issues around delimitation? So delimitation is very important because it delimitation, organization delimitation, they set the boundaries of a constituency, right? So what are the issues around delimitation? So we'll just read the information part of this article and not the opinion, because it can be a one-sided opinion that we should not show in our answers, right? So what is this delimitation? The delimitation of constituencies for Lok Sabha and state legislative assembly is to be carried out on the basis of first census after 2026. So this is going to happen, right? So delimitation means the process of fixing the number of seats and boundaries of territorial constituencies in each state for the Lok Sabha and also the legislative assemblies. Okay, this is done by delimitation commission, that is set up by the Act of Parliament. This year 2024 question had come, how many delimitation commission has been set till date? So that was 4, right? 1951, 1961, 1971. The number of seats were set 543 and it was frozen there, right? Because at that point of time in 1970s, the purpose of government was to control the population. So, and if you continue delimitation, you had to expand the numbers of seats and boundary of the constituency with respect to the population, right? So they did not want the population to be benefited, the states having higher population to be benefited. So they froze it in 1970s, and till now that is going on, right? So this is going to change after 2026. And the states who had lesser population, like South Indian states, are scared that their number of seats will reduce vis-a-vis North Indian states, right? So their say in the legislation of the country can reduce. These are the concerns, these are the issues, right? The population explosion that happened in our country during the last 5 decades has been uneven, right? So Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan had a greater increase. Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh were on the lower side, right? So their population reduced, right? So they have concerns that their seats can reduce, and this is what the article is about, right? So let's move to the next article. We are not going to form this person's opinion as our opinion, right? Interesting article, very interesting. How the Wallace line explains the difference in species across continents, okay? This comes under GS paper 1, distribution of key natural resources across the world. So in your prelims also it can be asked, what is Wallace line, okay? So in the 19th century, Alfred Wallace was a person who noticed a shift in the composition of organisms as he moved from Asia to Australia, right? Asia is here, Australia is here. He posited an invisible barrier. So there is a barrier which you cannot see, and post that barrier, the type of organism completely changes from from this island to this island, right? So what happened? That there is no transition, just a complete difference in the type of organisms, right? So he said he posited an invisible barrier in the ocean running between the islands of Bali and Lombok, striking north between Borneo and Sulawesi before curving south of Mindanao, right? So this is what he's saying. There's an invisible barrier in the ocean, later called the Wallace line, running, right? So to him, this was like a fence between the different kinds of animals on the two sides. Generally, we have seen that transition, right? So if you are going from India to Myanmar, there will be similarity. Myanmar to Thailand, there will be similarity. Then to China, there will be a little bit similarity. But here, there is complete, there is complete different set of animals on the both sides. That sparked some interest in him, and he did some research. So the line is part of Malay Archipelago, a geologically complex region with more than 25,000 islands, right? So here they have talked about reasons why this has happened. You can read about it, but from prelims point of view, you should know what is Wallace line. It's a line which is an invisible barrier, which is just pointing out how above this there are different kind of animals, and how below this the completely different set of organisms. Okay, yeah, let's move to the next article. Yeah, so this is also important. Even in 2024, the question was, what is total fertility rate? Okay, so a question can come about maternal mortality rate. India hit targeted maternal mortality rate of 100 deaths per lakh live births. So this is an achievement, right? It comes under GS paper 2, issues related to health sector. I remember when I started my UPSC preparation long back, then this data was 382 per lakh of women population. So 382 women were dying out of 1 lakh women who were delivering children. That is the data. Now that has reduced to 100, which is a great improvement, right? So India has achieved the national health policy target of maternal mortality rate of 100 deaths per 1 lakh live population. You should know the definition of MMR, right? That this is 83% decline in MMR between 1990 to 2020. Similarly, there is also a lot of decline in infant mortality rates. And what is infant mortality rate? Number of number of children below 1 year who died, out of all 1,000 children who took birth. That's out of 1,000 children who took birth, within their first birthday, how many children died, right? So that data is around 2021. So there is also 69% decline, and under 5 mortality rate has also reduced. So it's a achievement for India. Let's move to the next article. I have chosen this article because it has a lot of concepts and facts that can be asked in prelims, right? IMF overexposure by non-banking financial companies may imperil financial system. IMF is important, NBFCs are important for India, important from both mains and prelims point of view. So what it is writing, stress in non-banking finance companies may pose risk in financial system because of their overexposure to power and infrastructure sector and interconnectedness with other markets, right? This is what IMF is talking about, India's NBFCs, okay? So the report titled India Financial System Stability Assessment, right? 63% of the power sector loans were from 3 large infrastructure financing companies. They also said the state-owned NBFCs like IREDA are at a higher risk, right? So that is also because why state-owned are more at risk, because they're following the government instructions, right? They're not working on the, and they have mentioned several data. NBFC stress. The IMF also studied banks' resilience if a stagflation were to occur. So what is stagflation? You should know from prelims point of view. It has been asked in UPSC prelims. Stagflation is a situation where inflation is increasing. Generally, what happens normally when there is growth, good growth is happening, inflation is also there, employment is also rising. This is a normal scenario. But what happens in specific situation? Inflation is rising, but employment is reducing, and there's a stagnant economic growth. Not a very good condition for any country. So they are checking whether India is having a situation like inflation or not. Sorry, stagflation or not. There's other data, other fact. In the event of a stagflation, public sector banks may have difficulties maintaining a capital adequacy ratio. Now, what is capital adequacy ratio? There's a Basel norms on which all banks should have certain CAR. It is a percentage that compares a bank's capital to its risk-weighted assets. Okay, so how much it is taking risk based on how much capital it has. Capital adequacy ratio, you guys should know. Okay, this much is enough for this article. Let's move to the last article of the day. Yeah, so Kashmir University has a plan to help farmers manage a dry summer. So this winter was exceptionally dry for Kashmir. They did not have any rains, right? And Kashmir's farming and agriculture is very important. They have a lot of fruits, they have saffrons, they have almonds, they have walnuts, they have everything growing there, from basmati rice to everything. So their agriculture is important, right? So GS paper 3, it comes under agriculture, which is climate affected, right? Cropping system. So Kashmir had a dry winter this year, rainfall deficiency of around 80%. Researchers at this technology, which is called this university, Sher-e-Kashmir University of Agriculture, Science and Technology, are planning an adaptation strategy for farmers in the region. What are those measures? To preserve moisture, micro irrigation, crop rotation plants, and creation of a seed stock. Okay, this is what they are planning, right? So drought-like situation can come, which can lead to more wildfires, because in dry situation, forest wildfires can increase. That has happened in California right now. They are creating a crop contingency plan. They also want to have, do the farming of those crops that are more drought resistant, like, some drought tolerant maize varieties, some pulses varieties. They're also working on seed management and also on mulching. You should know what is mulching. Mulching is covering the topsoils with materials such as bark, wood, chips that can preserve moisture and improve the soil condition. Okay, so that's a good process for an area which has less moisture and water capacity, right? It's a good thing. Anti-transparent agents, micro irrigation, you should know. Mist sprayers are already being used in saffron farming, right? So with rising temperatures, pests are also thriving. Pests thrive in, warmer regions. So they have mentioned this aphids. Aphid is a kind of common pest who is completing its life cycle faster and creating more generations. Similarly, leaf miner blotch. It's a pest of apple. Leaf miner blotch. You should know these names. Sometimes UPSC asks this odd organisms and say what is this and what is this not, right? So aphids is mentioned, which is a pest. Leaf miner blotch is mentioned. Now they are growing at a faster pace, and it is really difficult to control them. So we need climate adaptive farmer strategies. Let's move to the next article, last article. A finger on the carbon button. They have talked about what is carbon intensity. It is a useful way to measure how much carbon a particular sector is emitting and how it has increased or decreased over time, right? So, for example, the steel sector may focus on the number of tons of CO2 produced annually. That way, it can see how much carbon intensity it has, right? So, government of a country may also measure its own development by tracking the GDP per capita. So, how a country's GDP's carbon intensity can be measured. An entire country's carbon intensity can be understood by dividing the growth in GDP per capita by the amount of CO2 emitted, right? So you should know these kind of definitions, and China has said that it has lowered its carbon intensity by 3.4% in 2024, missing its target of 3.9%. That's it for 5th March. Thank you.